is known as the king of reality and docu-series. Featured in Forbes Africa 30 Under 30, an award-winning filmmaker. He doesn't just hold parties with top Kenyan celebrities, but also makes great shows with them, bringing reality shows like Bing Bahati and Soul Family.
My name is EUGENE, and I'm an entrepreneur. I run several companies, the main one being documentary and reality TV, DNR TV. We produce television shows, a wide range of them, starting from Young Rich, Get in the Kitchen, Story Yangu, A Perfect Wedding, Foods of Kenya, This Love, Soul Family, many more. We have a lot of TV shows.
From making his first TV show, the journey has taught EUGENE self-discipline. A consistent but flexible routine had to be created.
So I live like a robot for the most part. So Monday to Friday, I keep the same routine every single day, which means I wake up at 3:45 a.m. But I also go to bed really early, so I still get my 7 hours of sleep. So I wake at 3:45 a.m. It takes me a while to wake up, so then I'll respond to internal communication from my managers. Then at around 10 minutes to 5, I go to the gym and I work out with a trainer until 6 a.m. Then at 6 a.m. I drive here to the office, and then I'll usually get ready from here. I'll take a shower, so then I'm at my desk by 7 a.m. After which I read for about an hour or so. Sometimes I drop the ball on the reading because work catches up, but I try to read almost every day if I can. Then once I'm done with that, I'll have breakfast, and around 8:45, the world comes at me. So meetings, emails, the whole world. But you see, the difference is I try to have those hours in the morning to myself, and there's a philosophy behind it. The way I look at the world is you go to war every single morning. The only two weapons you have that are really yours is your body and your mind. So I like to sharpen my weapons every morning before I go to war. So that's why I like to work on those two every morning. So by the time I'm starting to deal with the world, usually I will not even answer any phone calls before that time. So by around 8:45, by the time I'm going into the world, I have sharpened my tools. Then I usually work until around 4 or 5 p.m. Then usually 5 p.m. I'll either go have lunch or coffee or dinner with a friend, or go home play with my dogs. But then like on a Friday like today, I'm going to party and have a good time with people. The weekends are pretty free. I don't work on weekends. I rest and just enjoy life.
Starting out was not a walk in the park. Choices were on the table.
So initially when I started out, I was actually going to be an accountant. I lived with two cousins, and one was an accountant and the other one was a filmmaker. They were a sound man. And so initially I thought that I was going to go into accounting because that's what they tell you, it's a more stable profession. But then when I finished high school, it's much easier to take your cousin to a film set than it is to an accounting job. One needs training and the others, you can just go and try out. So I ended up going on a film set with my cousin Kamicha, and I fell in love with TV. Not only that, it was also the first opportunity I got, and I just took it and ran with it.
Going up the ladder wasn't easy, but EUGENE has become one of the most sought producers, working with companies like Maisha Magic.
The first job I got straight out of high school was as an extra on Nocturnal Junction on Inspector Mola. Then I went on to be an extra on Nocturnal Junction. Then I was a boom swinger on Machachari, and I did odd jobs on all these film sets. And this went on for a few years. Then while I was still, I learned a few tricks here and there. When you go on a film set, you cut means stop, action means go. And so a friend of mine and I, his name is Dexter, we came up with a business idea that we were going to go and teach what we know, like basic film, to primary school kids. And so we funded a company called To A Show, and we used to teach. So I saved up some money from that, and then I had a video game arcade where you guys could come and play PlayStation and pay $1 a minute. Then I was selling those 50-bob movies. This was when I was in university. But the whole time I really had a dream of having my own TV show, and I had created these concepts, different ones, with one of them being Young Rich, and I had tried to market them to many places until eventually the day before I graduated. I graduated on a Saturday in 2013, September. And the Friday before, Young Rich premiered on K24. So it was, prior to that, I'd been in university for almost 5 years before I got my first TV show on air.
Working with one of the top streaming companies in Kenya requires a certain level of professionalism and work ethic. It requires you to be a great leader.
So I am more of an executive producer, which means I pretty much sit at a desk all day. So at the beginning, of course, when you're a producer, you're the one who puts everything together. You're the one who runs the logistics. You make the phone calls to the subjects. You ensure that the crew is fed. You ensure that the edits are delivered on time. So ideally, I began as that. But then over time, now I've become an executive producer. I think I haven't been on set in easily 6 years or more. So what I now do is I take care of the business. My job is not to work in the business, but to work on the business. So every day I wake up, I'm working on concepts for new TV shows. I am doing a lot of client relations, lots of business development, coming up with budgets, creating concepts, firing those out, ensuring that the teams, you're putting the right people in the right places. But because I'm also quite involved in the creativity bits of it, because I create a lot of my TV shows, so I also do control quite a bit of what goes into the edits. We also do a lot of corporate work, so there's also a lot of just managing that. So I would say the executive producer is the one who makes the productions happen, but I'm not really involved in the data.
Running a successful company is not easy. Actually, at least 200 companies are dissolved per year in Kenya.
No, I don't like to look at my challenges per se, but of course everybody goes through difficulties. So when I was starting out, for instance, I used to be, I had a very small crew because that's all I could afford. So at the start, this is how my day used to do when I was shooting in Rich. Wake up in the morning around maybe 5, picked up, you're on set by 6. You shoot, you're sometimes the soundman, you're the director, you're the producer. Sometimes if a cameraman doesn't show up, you do camera. And then in the evening, we shoot all day. I'd get home around 6 p.m., take a shower, sit on the editing table, and edit the episode all the way until around midnight or 1 p.m. So I'd say those are difficult times. But it gets easier the more you do things. The pandemic was particularly tough for, I think, a lot of businesses, ours included. We had almost all our contracts cancelled twice. So I'd say maybe those are some of the biggest challenges. But the trick is to just keep going and to never allow the world to beat you down.
Having learned to face the reality and to never stop dancing despite the challenges, the COVID pandemic was unexpected.
I was very unlucky because the example you've used, I also have a restaurant. So I was hit on both fronts. But so for me, the pandemic, for our company, for DNR, the pandemic particularly hit us hard because a lot of our shows were event-based. So, you have shows like Our Perfect Wedding. It's about pomp and color at weddings. So weddings, if you remember, are restricted due to 20 people. We have a show like Foods of Kenya. It was dependent on traveling the country and documenting food. Nairobi was locked down at the beginning. So you can just see automatically some of our shows just went out purely because of the regulations that came about because of COVID. I do also have another business called Number 7, which is in the hospitality field. So we were locked up. Restaurants and bars were closed for, I think, a few months in 2020 and another few months in 2021. So it was just one of those unprecedented things that nobody could have planned for or imagined could happen.
Having been hit from 2 fronts, the COVID pandemic didn't just leave him in his feet, but ready to move forward.
No, so the thing that we never stopped doing, we never stopped fighting. So I'd say we did start to see some recovery. Even in 2020, we did recover. We took that time and doubled down on our creativity. We in 2020, for instance, is when we put out Soul Family. So it allows us to just focus and sit there and work on that show. We also, in 2020 we also put out a show called Concept Nyumbani, which was the biggest TV event at the time in Kenyan history, because we had a docu-musical celebrating frontline workers, and it broadcast on 13 stations simultaneously, which had never happened in Kenya before. So it was, we remained proactive. We kept going. There's a quote, it says, in time of crisis, hope is not a strategy, be proactive. So that's what we did. And I would say things have gotten better, of course, with the vaccine and all these things. So this year is looking particularly hopeful, but still an election year. So, there's always be something coming at you. The idea is to just keep fighting.
The pandemic challenged him to do better, think better, and conceive new shows. So when he met Tanzanian artists, we got curious.
Yes, so as DNR, we are venturing, we'd like to be, first of all, a regional production company and then international. And so the first step we want to conquer is East Africa. So last year we did go into Tanzania and we spent quite a bit of time with some of the artists there. What we're trying to do is co-productions. So we want, we speak the same language as Tanzania. Our cultures are very similar. Their stars are our stars. I don't know if the other way around works as well. But in some cases, they know who our stars are. So the idea is to sort of do this content that, because for instance in Kenya, if you make a TV show, you're targeting what at best, I think it's like 5 million TV viewers. If you can add another 5 million in Tanzania, you've doubled the viewership. So how do you create content that appeals to both countries? So that's what we're trying to do. And so we went and met all these different artists, starting with Diamond, Juma Jukes. We met with Vanessa Mdee. and quite a few other Irene Paul and Irene Warrior. There's quite a few celebrities and artists that we met with. And so we are going to be working on some projects with some of them, from reality shows, and we're also getting into scripted TV. So we're going to be doing a crime series that's a co-production between Kenya and Tanzania.
Filmmaking is not just about conceiving ideas. It's also about noting change and adapting to it. Streaming is the next change, with Netflix being the front horses.
So the film industry encompassing TV as well, because there's movies and then there's television, and we are mostly in television. I think it's both an exciting and scary time to be in our field. Exciting because if you watched last year, there was a bunch of the Kenyan film industry really thrived. You had some nice films from Ruben Odanga. You have people like Abel Mutua and Phil who are basically creating their own distribution channel entirely. There's never been more uptake of local Kenyan television than there is now. You have entrants like Maisha Magic who are putting in more budgets than Kenya has ever had. So it's exciting in that sense. But it's also very, very scary because we have digital content creators eating our cake out of our hands. Because you're now competing with someone who's shooting beautiful content on their phone and distributing it in 10 minutes, where else I need to take, and you as well, you need to come with a whole crew of 6 people, go edit it for a week. And this guy just basically goes there on their selfie camera, and they have content out and it's been watched by a million people before you've even offloaded your data onto our computer. So it's both scary and exciting. So I guess the challenge for us is, how do you maneuver and stay alive with this in mind?
Gone are the days when we could crowd in the living room waiting for our favorite shows. These days, you can get your favorite show at your fingertips, but it's more than that.
It's definitely social media and basically digital content is eating up some percentage of what used to be eyeballs that were directed at TV or film, and there's no fighting that. But even that said, I believe that there's still room for what I would call quick to digest content, which is what TikTok is. It's 16. How long are videos on TikTok? 16 seconds or thereabouts. Let's call them less than a minute. Reels. There's room for that, for quick entertainment as you're moving through your day. But there's also room for well-produced content that you sit down with your family to consume when you have time. Romantic movies will always be romantic movies on Valentine's Day. Christmas films will always be Christmas films. There'll always be a joy in sitting down to watch a series a full day on Sunday. So I feel like there's room for both of us. But what will happen though is long-form content has to be very, very good for someone to commit their time, sit down and consume it. Because otherwise you can just go and get a 30-second clip, 10 of them, and be happy and go through your day. So I feel like there's going to be coexistence between them, but for now they're definitely eating our cake.
In this age of social media, networking has been made easy, and collaboration doesn't only lead you to awesome productions, but also to increase in viewership.
Yeah, so internationally we are just now starting to make some partnerships, but locally we've worked with Eno Solik, we've worked with Ruben Odanga, we've collaborated on a bunch of things. We have some conversations with Tosh Gitonga to try and do something. We like on Concept in Bali, we had 3 different production companies working on it. But even with that said, we are a fully self-contained. That doesn't sound very logical. But we have everything in-house. We have a team of almost 50 people, ranging from producers, production managers, to editors, to camera people, sound men, photographers, graphic designers. So we do have a lot of stuff in-house, but we're also very, very usually happy to collaborate on projects with other production houses.
As millionaire and CEO of his own company doesn't mean there are no people he looks up to.
I don't really have a list of who I would like to work with, but I do have some people that I really look up to. Tyler Perry because of not necessarily because of the content itself, but just the system he's built and the fact that he's been able to do distribution in his own terms. I find that quite inspiring. Quentin Tarantino because just makes very edgy, interesting content. And there's a bunch of other pieces of work that I love, not necessarily because of the film, the producers themselves, or the filmmakers themselves, but because just of what those pieces of work embody. There's films I love like Catch Me If You Can, Blow. There's a bunch of films that I just really, really look up to, but I currently don't think I have any names that I would like to collaborate with. I'm also very pragmatic in the way I look at life. So maybe once I have a Hollywood show is when I'll start thinking about that. But for now, I'm just focusing on what I can do in Tanzania.
Filmmaking is a creative process, and the surest way to improve creativity is to make books your friends.
Yeah, there's a lot of books that people think are very cliche that I have found that I've read before, but as I grow older, I read them again and I find that the knowledge they have is so simple and beautiful that I had missed it the first time. Some of these books are how to win friends and how to influence people and how to win friends and influence people. There's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad that also did quite a bit for me in terms of just giving me a sense of how money works and how business operates. There's a book called The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, who's a former CEO of Disney. That also blew my mind quite a bit. Which books here? The E-Myth Revised by Michael Garber. That also did quite something for me. I've got 3 libraries. So I've got this here and I've got 2 at home. So there's a bunch of different books that I've read. But there's also a lot of books that you read and you just forget about them. Not necessarily because you forgot, but you retain some learnings, even though if you don't remember the finer details. There's a book called The Messy Middle by Scott Belsky. I feel like that also changed my life quite a bit. So yeah, I just get knowledge from very, very many different books.
EUGENE MBUGUA has brought us one of the most amazing and interactive shows, and we can't wait for more.
So DNR as a company, we have quite a few exciting projects coming up. We currently have our Perfect Wedding, which is on season 14, if I'm not mistaken, right now. Currently airing on Maisha Magic East every Saturday at 8 p.m. We have a spin-off of our Perfect Wedding called Our 5th Anniversary that's on air every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We have a new show with the Charlo sisters coming up. That is Betty, Gloria, and Mercy. We're working on a new comedy show that should be up around May. We're working on a scripted television show that should be up towards the end of the year. It's a very exciting year this year, and there's quite a few projects that we will be releasing.
Working with a group of creatives to create amazing shows, a deal has to be cut, and EUGENE has to get the gig.
I get the gig like everybody else. I come up with concepts, I make pilots, and I pitch them. People actually don't believe this, but for every single TV show that we have, there's 10 that didn't see the light of day, or more. Just to give you an example of how long it takes to get one on air. Young Rich, before I got it on air, it took about 2.5 years, give or take. We have a show called Foods of Kenya on KTN. We created this concept in 2014. It went on air in 2019. There's a show that's about to hopefully start on NTV that we conceptualized 4 years ago. It's only going on air now. All that whole time, it's just been no's and no's and no's and no's and no's and no's until one day you get a yes. So we pitch TV like everybody else. We go out, we make mistakes. There's a bunch of TV shows. I have a folder on my computer called The Graveyard. It's full of TV shows that we spent money on and time that just never saw the light of day. And it's for different reasons. Sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes the idea is not as great as you think it is. Sometimes the market doesn't need it. But we are constantly just throwing arrows that direction, hoping it hits the target. So by the time you see a show of mine on air, there's 10 I've tried. So you see, you're just outrightly, you get better than other people. And you are just also, when you go to Karata, eventually you get something. So that's sort of our approach. We are constantly just working at it and eventually something sticks.
Making film is one thing, but making money from them is quite another.
I would say my approach is more business. For a long time I used to say I'm not in the TV industry, I'm in the TV business. A lot of artists don't spend enough time just thinking about how business works. Excuse me. And there's a quote: "There's no commerce, there's no art without commerce." The moment you understand where art falls into place in the capitalistic world, the easier it becomes for you. Because if your art serves a commercial purpose, it means it's then valuable to whoever runs commercial entities, and that almost promises success and sustainability. And if you're making commercial sense, it means you have more money to make better art. So it's a cycle, and it's very, I would say, almost foolish to be, especially in a country like ours where we have no systems, to then just say you're going to be an artist. Because you see, in developed markets where you have systems, you can actually just be an artist because there's a manager in charge of that. There's systems to give you royalties. You can just focus on making really good art. But where we are, especially, you do need to find success. At least you do need to be a business person as well. You do need to think about how art makes money, because if you need to make good art, you need to hire people. You need to figure out how they're paid. And the only way to figure that out is to actually put a lot of time and attention into figuring out the business end of the art you do.
Eugene created his first TV show by borrowing equipment from friends.
I always give the same advice. I always say, start now where you are with what you have. It sounds like very, very simple advice, but more often than not, you always think that there's some perfect thing you're waiting for so that your door's open. But often you find that it's while you're doing the work that opportunities arise. So again, I always say, just start now where you are with what you have.